Imagine yourself walking through the quiet streets of Lisbon just before sunrise. The air is still and cool, scented with river mist and old stone, carrying the hush of a city that remembers how to breathe before the day begins. Trams sit motionless on their rails, their yellow paint dulled by the gentle morning fog. Somewhere, far below, the Tagus stirs, its vast surface catching the first shy glimmers of light from the east. You walk slowly, not because you must, but because the place invites it. The cobblestones beneath your feet echo faintly with your steps, surrounded by tiled facades in blues and golds and faded whites. These azulejos, these painted stories, are everywhere. Fragments of saints, ships, vines, and stars. Not just decoration, but memory made permanent in ceramic. Down narrow alleyways of Alfama, the oldest soul of the city still sleeps, yet some life is already awake. A baker unlocks a wooden door, the clink of glassware. A kettle hisses inside a tiny window kitchen, and on a balcony above, a woman leans out to greet the morning with a breath and a glance at the sky. Lisbon is soft at this hour. The light wraps around you like linen. It filters through fig trees and flares golden against the corners of whitewashed walls. In the distance, the red curve of the 25 de Abril bridge stretches toward the far shore, carrying dreams and buses across its spine. You stop at a small café just opening its shutters. The man behind the counter nods silently and pours you a bica, strong, dark espresso, served in a thick little cup. You sip, standing at the bar, and the bitterness settles into your chest like truth. Beside it, a warm pastel de nata sits in a paper sleeve. The custard is rich, the crust impossibly delicate. It crumbles just enough, melting into the flavor of morning. You wander downhill now, toward the river. Along the wide promenade, joggers pass silently. Cyclists drift by with bells chiming softly. The city stretches behind you like a waking memory, and ahead, the river grows larger, deeper, more certain. And then you are at the water's edge. The Tagus is not loud, it does not rush, it breathes, it gleams. You sit for a while, and watch ferries glide eastward. There is a calm here that has nothing to prove. Only the tides keep time. You follow the river west, walking in the shadow of stone monuments and open sky. In Belém, the past stands still. The Geronimos monastery rises with a grace that speaks of prayer and salt, each column carved like lace, each arch echoing with the silence of sailors gone to sea. The air here smells of river water and flower, of history and bread. Nearby, the Tower of Belém watches the Tagus, low and strong, as it has for centuries. You run your fingers across its worn stone, feeling the imprint of time and tide. You imagine the ships, the prayers, the dreams that passed by this point, not as conquest, but as longing. Portugal's age of discovery was never just about maps. It was about distance, about the ache of leaving and the uncertain beauty of return. You stop at a bakery famous for its pastéis de Belém, where the queue is slow and the faces are quiet. You take one, dusted with cinnamon, and sit by the water. The custard is warmer here, thicker, wrapped in generations of care. Pigeons wander at your feet. Children chase bubbles blown by a street performer. A tram rolls by, creaking its way toward the city again. And you continue on, this time not by foot, but by train. Northward, the land shifts, softening into valleys and hills. The windows frame fields of sunflowers, olive trees, and vineyards that roll like stories across the earth. You pass small stations, their names painted in fading tile, their benches empty, except for an old man reading yesterday's paper. When you arrive in Porto, it is evening. The Douro River gleams beneath the lights, and the bridges arch over it like ribbons of steel and stone. The city is built in layers of tile, granite, glass, and time. You wander through its steep streets, where walls are painted in poetry, and the smell of grilled sardines fills the air. There's music somewhere, soft, plucked strings echoing from a window. In a small tavern, you sip vino verde, light and bright, served cold in a foggy glass. It tastes like conversation and calm. You cross the river at dusk. From Vila Nova de Gaia, you watch the lights flicker on in the windows above the river. Boats rock slowly in the darkening current. Cellars behind you hold barrels of aged port, and the air is thick with wood, wine, and silence. You walk until the sounds fade into footsteps. You rest at a stone wall, and the city becomes a painting of itself, glowing, breathing, waiting. The north of Portugal is quieter still. You take a winding bus into the Douro Valley, and time begins to dissolve. In the valley, you walk among vines that have felt centuries. The soil beneath your boots is dry, cracked in places, but alive. A farmer greets you with a nod. He doesn't ask where you're from, only if you're thirsty. He hands you a small glass of something deep and red. You drink and taste the slow work of season. In the highlands of northern Portugal, the rhythm changes again. You walk through granite villages where laundry dries in the wind, and old women in dark shawls sit in doorways, shelling beans into metal bowls. The sound of their work is soft, steady, a kind of prayer in motion. The air smells of earth and wood smoke. A dog watches you from a sunny step, his tail tapping the ground slowly, as if to greet your passing without question. The sky here feels vast and close all at once. In the distance, the Serra da Estrela rises into blue and cloud. You take a narrow trail into the hills where the wind carries the scent of pine and wild thyme. A shepherd moves slowly with his flock, staff in hand, calling softly in a rhythm older than language. His dog runs ahead and loops back again, joyful and efficient. In a stone hut at the crest of the trail, you are handed a slice of queijo da serra, creamy, dense, made from sheep's milk and silence. It tastes like the land itself, like firelight and patience. You sit on a flat rock watching the valley stretch below, and for a long time say nothing. There is no need. Further south you reach the Alentejo. Here the land opens, vast fields of golden grasses, cork oaks casting long shadows, and whitewashed villages tucked beneath wide skies. Life moves slowly here, deliberately. You hear it in the hum of bees around fig trees. You see it in the old man tending a vineyard alone, moving row by row without haste. You feel it in the way people speak, few words, each one chosen. In the village of Monserrat, you climb to the castle wall and look out across the great lake. The horizon is dusted with sunlight and stillness. Bells ring somewhere, slow and hollow. The town itself feels like a painting. Cobblestone lanes, bursts of bougainvillea, a cat dozing in the shade of an arched doorway. You stay the night in a simple guest house. The host brings you bread, still warm from the oven, cheese wrapped in cloth, and a small bottle of red wine made just down the road. There is no menu, no choices, only generosity. The next day, you walk beneath cork trees with thick trunks, their bark stripped in wide swaths, painted with numbers that mark the years of harvest. The trees are strong and scarred, survivors of sun and drought. Their leaves shimmer silver and green in the wind. A butterfly passes. A bird calls. The night falls slowly in the Algarve. You sit on a rock above the water, watching the sky shift from gold to lavender to ink. The sea darkens, but never disappears. Stars begin to scatter across the dome above, clear and close, as if someone had lifted a veil. Inland, the lights of small villages flicker on, quiet lives unfolding behind half-drawn curtains, the scent of dinner rising into the night. Somewhere in the distance, a guitar is played softly, its sound floating through olive trees and into the open dark. You feel a stillness that is not silence, but fullness. Like the land is exhaling, and you with it. You travel now to Evora, where ancient stones wait in calm dignity. The ruins of a Roman temple rise unexpectedly in the town square, tall, weathered columns holding nothing, and yet holding everything. You walk among them at dawn, the marble pale against the waking sky. Near the temple, white buildings line the streets, their shutters painted green, their doorways cool with shadow. Time here is layered, Roman, Moorish, medieval, and now. all folded together like soil and seed. At the Chapel of Bones, you pause. It is not grim, it is reverent. Skulls and femurs line the walls, not as fear, but as memory. A sign above the entrance reads, Nos osos que aquí estamos, pelos vossos esperamos. We bones that are here await yours. You stand quietly and let that truth sit beside you, not as warning, but as invitation to live. Outside, the sunlight is warm again. You walk through the town, past fountains, orange trees, and bookstores. You sit in a shaded square where children play tag and pigeons coo softly beneath a statue. You eat a chorda alentejana, a broth of garlic, coriander, olive oil, and poached egg, and it tastes like comfort, like home. Your path now bends toward Coimbra, where the river Mondego runs slow and thoughtful. The university crowns the hill, its white towers watching over centuries of minds and dreams. You hear footsteps echo in cloisters, the quiet rustle of paper, and the distant hum of students talking beneath stone arches. In the Jonina Library, books sleep beneath painted ceilings and gilded wood, guarded by silence and time. You do not speak. You breathe in history. At night, you cross the bridge and look back at the city glowing on the hillside. Music drifts from an open window, part fado, part laughter. You pause by the riverbank where lovers sit on benches and the water glides past like a slow-moving verse. You sit too, and let yourself be part of the poem. And then, the land lifts and breaks apart into the sea again. You fly now to Madeira, an island of impossible green and jagged cliffs. From the window of the plane, in Madeira's highlands, the world opens around you, like a breath held too long. Terraced hillsides rise and fall, stitched with vines and banana palms. Villages cling to steep slopes with quiet resolve. You hear birds you cannot name, the rustle of wind in eucalyptus trees, and the soft, rhythmic trickle of water beside your every step. You reach a clearing above the clouds. Below you, the island stretches in greens and grays, while above, the sky is a dome of quiet blue. The sun warms your skin. The moment expands. There is no sound but wind and heart. You descend into Funchal, the island's capital, where gardens bloom in colors too vivid for memory. You walk through the Mercado dos Lavradores, where fruit vendors offer you samples with soft voices and gentle pride. You taste passion fruit, mango, dragon fruit, each one strange and familiar, sweet and tart. In a quiet corner, a woman sells black scabbard fish wrapped in garlic and lemon. You order it with baked banana and sit alone, grateful. At night, you hear the sea again. You lean on a balcony rail and feel the spray of salt air. Far below, the waves reach and fold over and over into the dark. Somewhere, a choir is practicing in a church. You hear the faint rise and fall of harmony, and it settles into your chest like a blessing. And then, westward again, into the wild Atlantic. You land in the Azores, not one island, but many, floating in green, scattered like beads on water. You arrive on São Miguel, where Crater lakes shimmer blue and green in twin silence. Steam rises from hot springs beneath ancient trees. The earth here breathes more visibly, more slowly. In Furnas, you walk barefoot on moss. The ground is warm. Locals cook stews in the volcanic soil, cozido, buried for hours until it tastes of root and smoke and patience. You eat it beneath a canopy of trees that have stood through storms and stillness alike. You wander alone to Lagoa do Fogo, the lake of fire. The trail is empty. The wind sharpens, then stills. When you reach the ridge, the world is nothing but sky, cloud, and a bowl of silver water far below. You sit for a long time, knees tucked beneath you, watching light move across the lake like memory. You continue island to island. On Pico, the mountain greets you at every turn. Black rock against wide sky. Vineyards grow in stone-walled plots, protected from wind by wisdom, not invention. On File, the blue hydrangeas bloom like borders between land and dream. On Terceira, you walk cobbled streets where bulls once ran, and flags still hang in quiet celebration. In a village by the coast, an old man teaches you how to split limpets from black rock. He does not speak English. You spend your final morning walking along the banks of the Tagus once more. The river is the same, steady, silver, generous, but you are not. You've been reshaped, gently, by slow landscapes and quiet voices, by salt wind and old songs, by rooms lit with silence and the smell of bread. You return to Alfama, not to see something new, but to feel something old. A child runs past you, chasing a ball. A woman sings softly to herself as she sweeps her doorstep. The world does not need to impress you. It simply continues, and that, somehow, is enough. You climb one last hill and look out across the rooftops, over the arc of the bridge, out to the far line where river meets ocean and ocean meets sky. You take a breath. The city exhales with you, and then you sit. Perhaps on a bench beneath an olive tree, perhaps at a table with a final galao, the milk warm, the coffee soft. Perhaps on a step, with no destination at all. You sit and let the stillness do its work. Portugal does not say goodbye. It does not raise its voice. It simply waits, in tiled corners, in winding paths, in the hush between verses of a song. And as you sit beside the Atlantic one last time, watching the sun slip into the ocean like a whispered secret, you understand that Portugal does not end. It lingers, in the rhythm of footsteps on ancient stones, in the softness of wind over olive hills, in the taste of salt and sweetness on your lips.